Indigenous peoples have successfully adapted to change for thousands of years. Their strength lies in diversity. Diversity in the forests they are a part of, diversity in seeds and crops, cultural diversity. Indigenous peoples who are organized, confident to adjust their systems to changing circumstances while maintaining their identity strong, will be better able to withstand shocks caused by climate change. This film shows 5 examples of this. Many communities are experiencing cultural loss, as was the case with Talandig in the Philippines.
Well, this community was already affected a lot by outside influence. Our influences here includes the influence of Western religion, education, the political system and leadership from the outside world, and as well as the economic system and even entertainments like television.
There's a lot of young now, youth, teenager that is being influenced by another culture. They think that other culture is much better than their culture and they can't reach their dreams with the sticking to the old culture. They believe that into that new culture, they will reach their dreams.
But then while we were contemplating and reflecting, we realized that this is not our culture. We are different people. We are distinct people. And in fact, we are special people by virtue of our culture. And so if we want to grow and develop as Talandig, we need to develop and promote our own cultural ways.
The community of Talandig made a conscious effort to sustain their pride in their cultural identity. They focused especially on the youth, the children, on traditional music, dance, and art. An important step to strengthen Talandig culture was to create the School of Living Tradition.
The children who attend this school learn our customs and traditions. They also learn our connection with nature.
At the school, parents teach the children traditional dance, weaving, storytelling, playing musical instruments, and other skills.
I'm happy because even if they watch television, at least in this school, something about our culture gets planted in their minds. We have trained them on how to become good leaders in the future, so that they can take care of their own children, the environment, and the customs as passed down from our elders.
With the children and the youth secure in their indigenous cultural identity, the ability of the community to defend their rights and their territory is also strengthened.
We can ask people to give us solution to the problems we are facing today. Other people can probably help in trying to provide solution, but the ultimate solution will come from our own selves.
Toro is a community in Sulawesi, Indonesia, with a territory which covers an area of over 22,000 hectares, most of which is forest. As in so many indigenous peoples' territories, the forests of Toro have been threatened by outside interests.
There were community members who took timber. They were being exploited by the police and the military. This happened a lot and was dangerous to our environment here in Toro. And it resulted in floods that washed the rice fields away and in erosion. As a community, we started organizing our own forest patrols with guards we called Tondo Ngata. Now there is no more timber being sold by the money men.
Ngata Toro has strong regulations which guide the community in their own forest use.
Customary law regulates our forest use. We cannot simply cut trees as we like. If we just cut like this, especially near water, we will be fined under customary law because of erosion. Worst of all would be to cut at the source. This would be a terrible destruction of the forest. If we do look for wood for our household needs, we must find it in a part of the forest that is not at risk, somewhere not easy to erode. This is allowed. But this taking has rules. To take wood, there must be a ritual. And then we go where the tree is and ask the spirits of the forest for permission to use it.
The harvesting of non-timber forest products is also regulated in customary law.
We cannot harvest rattan palm from the same place for months on end, at most for 1 month from one mountain. Then we must move to another mountain. These are the laws of the Toro people, passed down from our ancestors.
Forests reduce the risk of droughts and floods. They cool the local environment. They store carbon. They provide food, building materials, water, and medicinal plants. Indigenous communities who protect their forests are likely to be less affected by the impacts of climate change.
Humans can live normally because we receive so much from the forest, like wood and oxygen. Trees and roots collect water for humans, for farming, for animals, for all living beings. Our ancestors said, "You must look after the forest because the connection of humans with the forest, with nature, is something we have to defend to the last drop of blood."
Sampai tetesan darah terakhir.
Indigenous peoples have long learned to live within the limits of the environments they are part of. In many places, this traditional wisdom has been weakened over the last few decades. Jambianom is a community in Lombok, Indonesia, that has recently strengthened its customary law to deal with the problem of overfishing in their seas.
There were fishermen from here and from elsewhere who arrived and fished using bombs and with poison, a chemical called potassium.
Fish catches go down when people bomb because everything is killed.
There has been an erosion of local wisdom and fishermen wanted to get a big yield. By using bombs, we got big fish. But the impacts on the coral and small fish meant that fisheries were destroyed. Our ancestors managed the coast and the sea through customary law. So we discussed how we could recover the values of traditional law to regulate the management of the sea. This is when the customary laws, the awik-awik, were brought back.
Dari sanalah kemudian pertama muncul awik-awik. Lain kalau di pasar naik. Yang butir-butir dari awik-awik itu adalah
the rules and regulations of these customary laws include forbidding fishing with bombs and potassium. There are sanctions. If they do it once, they will be fined. There is a material sanction, and the guilty party must also make a public written declaration and oath at the village council of fishermen. If they break the rules again, their fishing tools will be burnt. But with the awik-awik, if caught once, they never do it again. The proof is that there aren't people fishing here with bombs or potassium anymore.
With the awik-awik, outsiders can't just come to our place as they please. There is no bombing or use of potassium. They don't dare. Our seas are looked after again, especially for the traditional fisherfolk.
Why do we need awik-awik? It's because as a community of fishermen, we hope that the state, with their existing laws, can respond to these problems. But because the law enforcement is weak, arrested today, released tomorrow, and do it again. This is what makes our fisherfolk pessimistic about the existing law enforcement. Because our traditional knowledge comes from our ancestors, from the forest, the agriculture, and here, the sea. This is what is respected by the communities themselves.
Customary law can play a strong role in reducing the impacts of climate change by helping to build local resilience, and in the global context by demonstrating that living within limits is a practical solution to environmental crises.
For most of us who are farmers and agriculturists, climate change means that the weather that we are used to, the dry weather that we expect when our grain is ripening, the wet weather we expect when we put our grain into the ground, that will not happen. When we put our grain into the ground, a dry spell may come and destroy everything. When we are ready to harvest, rains may come and destroy our harvest.
One reason crops are so vulnerable is that more and more farmers are turning to hybrid commercial seeds sold by huge multinational companies. These hybrid seeds cannot be saved, and new seeds have to be bought each year. They also require expensive fertilizers and pesticides to grow. When crops that are grown with these identical seeds fail, they all fail. Many indigenous peoples recognize the importance of saving their traditional varieties of seeds. Some traditional seeds may be good in dry spells, others do well when it rains too much. Farmers who save their seeds are better able to cope with climate change. Traditional varieties come in all shapes and sizes. Whether we are talking about rice, yams, corn, or bananas, there are hundreds of traditional varieties. All colors, all textures, all tastes. When traditional varieties are used, there is diversity. And with diversity comes strength. These communities in the Solomon Islands are protecting traditional varieties of their staple foods, sweet potato and yam.
This is one of a local variety that is called Bishop, or here in Solomon Island, people normally call it no care or no break. because it can do well in any range of soil type. But this doesn't mean that people have to be stick on this one variety. They have to be diversified in different varieties of sweet potato to grow.
We are collecting all the varieties of local potato, sweet potato, and so far and so good. We've planted about 80 in our garden there.
I've been putting in a label the names of these local varieties. Altogether is about 23 varieties that have been collected and planted in this bulking area.
I grow 5 varieties of yam.
Koru, rosta, faifala.
We are trying to share the planting materials to many farmers in Solomon Island. That's what the program is all about, is to share the planting materials. Basically the sweet potato varieties and also the cassava varieties and the yam varieties.
One of the richest part of Melanesian culture is the giving of things, especially when they are special. When they are special things, that when someone sees a special crop, a special species of kumara, of sweet potato, or special species of taro, that special item is given as a special love to the wantoks.
Climate change and environmental destruction lead to scarcity of natural resources. When land or water becomes scarcer, different opinions about who controls or uses these resources can lead to conflict.
During the dry season, people fight over water. We all have to eat, and the rice fields have to be watered, because we have all invested our labour. My children pity me because I have to guard the fields alone at night. So they accompany me and we bring the mat and umbrella and we sleep here. But even if we are guarding or when we are asleep, someone can come and remove the canal stopper to steal the water.
Because of water thefts, the community of Pidlisan in the Philippines experienced tribal wars.
Since we formed the water distribution system, the Lampisa, nothing like that has happened. Lampisa is a system of water management that ensures the equal distribution of water to the whole village. This system has been chosen by the community to distribute water equally to the rice farmers.
One way a community can prepare for climate change is by managing scarce resources in ways that help ensure fairness and reduce conflicts.
The establishment of the Lampisa was to prevent the infighting and conflicts among villages, because water resources here are now very scarce. The man in charge of Lampisa is chosen by the community. He must have patience and be willing to offer himself to the role for the service of the community. The Lampisa has a big role in maintaining the irrigation and also in managing the watershed forest. Then there won't be any misunderstandings. That's why the irrigation should be well guarded by the Lampisa. And if anyone violates this, the Lampisa must impose fines.
mun pagpaguyod sin payas.
The first time in the year that the Lampisa goes to open the irrigation, they sacrifice a chicken at the source of the water. This is to pray for the water to be abundant and to sustain the flow of water, to welcome the joyous flow of water to nourish our rice fields.
More and more indigenous peoples are getting organized, maintaining and regaining diversity, and have the confidence to adapt to new circumstances while keeping their identities strong. Indigenous peoples are defending their territories and their rights from resource-hungry industries which cause climate change, and increasingly, indigenous peoples are also taking the lead in proposing solutions to the climate crisis.